How are y'all? Yeah? Good. There are a couple things that Bill mentioned that I just wanted to send back your way to make sure you heard it. High capacity leaders. All right, y'all hear that? Aligned with vision and mission. Remarkable people, remarkable service, remarkable products, remarkable company. And then I thought he summed it up real cool when he said, you know what, we're going to create a remarkable culture where remarkable people can thrive. And I had this whole kind of setup story that I was going to lead into today with, but instead I'm going to come at it from a totally different angle, because he also used the word fluff, right? I'm not going to give you fluff today. And 3 years ago, I started sharing part of my story with audiences, and the first audience was a group of utility workers. These are the guys and gals who bring electricity into your house, into your business. They had a big safety culture of not having one at all, right? They had a total of 13 fatalities in the 3 years leading up to this safety fair. And it was a room just like this. And so it's my first speech. I'm walking up, I'm very nervous, and right before I get to the front, this big burly guy puts this big old meat hook around me. And he looks at me and he says, "Are you speaking this morning, boy?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Good. What kind of bullshit do you have in store for me and my boys?" And I walk away from him, and I walk in front of this group. The lights are on bright so I can see everybody's face. And they're all sitting here like this. Right? Arms crossed nice and tight. Bored. Fluff is what they're expecting, right? BS. And so today, before I get into it, and before you have the honor, I think, of hearing the rest of this afternoon, because it's going to be awesome, I challenge y'all to define what it is you expect from today. Define what it is you expect from your partnership with Lee, and define in your own heart what you expect from yourself each day. Because if you're expecting BS, you're going to get it. Okay? But if you're expecting something big from me and from the other speakers and from your leaders, I think you'll get that too. Does that sound fair? Okay. We're going to get right into this. I want to give you all 4 characteristics that I think will allow you to truly be the difference at Lee and beyond. Okay? These 4 pieces, I think, my friends, will absolutely change your lives and those you serve. And the first piece is this idea of being courageous. If you really want to be a difference maker, you got to step into life and step into work with courage. When I was a little guy growing up in the Midwest, I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. I saw some older boys. They were 11, I was 9, and they were playing with fire and gasoline. Right? It was pretty standard fare for little guys. What they would do is they would sprinkle some gasoline on a sidewalk, strike a match, throw it on top, and the liquid would just boom, dance to life. And I'm 9. I look up to these guys, right? And I'm thinking, if they can do it and get away with it, I bet I can too. Right? You ever say that in your life? If she can do it, or he can do it, at the job site, or in that relationship, or wherever else it might be going on, and get away with it, I bet I can. So that weekend, for me, it was like on. My dad was at work. My mom was out with 2 of my sisters. I had the whole house to myself. I walked into the garage. I knew right where I was going. I was on a mission. Walked right over to this big old red can of gasoline. It's one of those old-fashioned red metal kinds. It's 5 gallons and it's full, so it's too heavy for a little 9-year-old boy to pick up. So I set my flame on the ground. I bear hug this container. And I slowly start tipping it toward that flame. And I'm waiting for the liquid to come out, right? But what comes out first? The fumes, the vapors, right? That comes out first. It inhales this little flame. You can see it up on the screens. Into this big old can of gasoline. It splits the can in half when this thing explodes. It spews 5 gallons over my body. It picks me up. And then it launches me 15 feet against the far side of the garage. When we were little, we all learned what to do when we're on fire. What do y'all do when you're on fire? Right? Stop, drop, and roll. You know, you sit in grade school with your hands folded. Smokey the Bear comes in one day. He smells like a mix between campfire smoke and alcohol, right? A little bit like Grandpa at Christmas. He smells a little bit like that. And he reminds y'all when you're sitting there, you got to stop, drop, and roll, kids. And we sit there and we do one of these, right? Okay. What do you really do, though, when you're a little guy and you're on fire? All right. And you run. The challenge with training, and part of the challenge with days like this and safety fairs is that we train up here. But where do you live? Your heart. Right? You live from your heart. So there's a big gap between the two. That day I was so scared. I just went cooking on through that garage back toward the house. I ran from the garage door into the kitchen. And then from the kitchen, I ran into the family room. And then I turned and ran into the front hall. And then I just got done running. I was just ready to give up, right? I remember just standing on top of this rug, burning, and begging for somebody to come in and show a little bit of courage. I was waiting for somebody else to step in and save my life. And then I see him, right? My older brother, Jim, he's 17. Anybody grow up with older brothers or sisters in your family? It's like 3 people, okay? I thought there'd be a few more, but so for the 3 of us, you remember that relationship and the way they treated you, right? Love, respect, passion. Are those the words you might use? For me, and maybe not for you, but for me, this guy was my older brother, man. He was brutal. He was typical. He was self-centric. And I see him coming toward me, and I know his heart. So I'm waiting for God to send somebody else. I was hoping for a hero, God. What this boy that you see on that screen proved that day is one of the things I hope you all walk away with today. I'm going to ask you to walk away with one thing. Okay? But here's one of the things you can choose. Is that you have this gift every day, if you choose it, to change. To be way bigger and better and safer and more loving today than you were yesterday. You don't have to do it, but you have this gift, if you want to be bigger and better today than you were yesterday. The deal is, though, you have to realize that it's about something bigger than you. It's this difficult realization. It's bigger than you. That morning, this 17-year-old boy came up from the basement where he was sleeping. His brother's on fire, and life was bigger than him for the first time. He races past me. He picks up this little throw rug. Comes back over. The flames are leaping 3 feet off of my body because it's being fueled by flames, or by gasoline. And this boy just begins beating down the flames with that rug, swinging again and again. For 2 minutes, carries me outside afterwards, throws me on the grass, and he saves my life. Because he first changed. He stepped into life new, renewed for others. And in spite of it all, in spite of his love and his courage, this little boy's life up there, your speakers today, would forever change. One moment, I'm just perfectly happy and healthy, and I bet most of you would agree. I mean, for 9, he's pretty darn good looking. All right, look at that. Bangs, man, just perfect. Life was good. Y'all remember those days? When it was like easy? And then it gets hard. It blows up in your face. A relationship or a diagnosis or an economy, whatever it might be. And then you have this choice of, what do I do next? Right, what next? This next picture that's about to show on that screen is going to be really hard to look at. So some of you may want to look down for a moment. But I found myself as a little boy, I'm 9, on my back in this emergency room with burns on 100% of my body. 87% were 3rd degree. And I'm dying. Right? I remember laying there that morning on my back and looking up at these bright lights just like today. I mean, you couldn't make out anything. They're just right in your face. And then I just shut my eyes and there was one thought going through my mind on repeat. And the thought back then was, oh my gosh, my dad is going to freaking kill me when he finds out. Right, men? We'll get to the women in a moment, but remember that old man? May not have been your daddy, but the disciplinarian down the street, you had somebody who took care of you. Mine was this guy that we call Dad. Right? He took care of us. And I just blew up his entire house. I knew what was coming my way. And as a little boy, man, laying there in those bright old lights, the greater pain was realizing that I deserved it. I earned this thing. And then I hear his voice down the hall. And he's angry. He kind of yells at one of the nurses. "Where's my boy John?" And this nurse does me no favors because she leads him right back to where I am. And he rips back that yellow curtain, and then he walks in, and then he points down at me, and he just lets me have it. Kind of yells at me. He says, "John, I have never been so proud of anybody in my entire life. And my little buddy, I'm just proud to be your dad today. Man, I love you." And I remember kind of looking away from my dad and shutting my eyes. And as a little guy, the thought was, oh my gosh. Right? Nobody's told my dad what happened yet. Right? He doesn't know. What do y'all think? Did Dad know what happened? You know, the beautiful thing about tragedy is that it comes hand in hand with something beautiful called perspective. Right? Perspective. Something I think many of us should get a dose of every single day. Perspective. My dad's perspective was so clear right then. It was laser focused. He was just loving on me, man, with a lot of courage. Stepping into this thing with love. And that unconditional love was changing me. From wanting to die to considering life. His love changed me that day. And right behind my dad comes my mom. And she steps right into this, and I know the picture's up there somewhere. If you're curious, my mom and dad used to think it was cool to not only dress alike, right? Which is already kind of weird, but also to cut their hair in the exact same It's a Missouri comb-over. And so if this thing's on your heart right now, that's my mama on your left. Okay? It's my daddy on your right. They're my heroes. Still. Mom comes in. She takes my hand in hers. The hand's still hot. Okay? But she cuddles that hand gently, pats my bald head, and then she just starts loving on me too. And she says to me that morning, "John, I love you so much." And I look at her and I say back, "Mom, knock it off with the love. Am I going to die?" Right? And on my back, with Mom holding onto this hand, all I'm looking for is assurance. I just want hope. And she doesn't give me it. Right? And instead, she challenges me with a question, this beautiful question. The question that morning was, "Baby, you want to die? Because it's your choice, it's not mine." And here's that fork, right? Here's the fork. And I had to decide which path, man. And I look at my mom and I say, "Mom, I don't want to die." So she says, "Then baby, you got to fight like you never fought before. You got to take the hand of Christ and walk the journey with Him. But you got to fight. Right? You got to fight. This thing is going to become a street brawl, baby. Get after it. I'm with you." We had no idea what was coming next. But we knew the fight was on. Right? We knew we were going to step into this thing with some courage. We were going to get after it. We were all in. That night, my dad went to this prayer service after he heard that his son was going to die, because the doctors assured my father that we would die. And my dad came in front of all his peers, probably 450 people here today. They had 700 there, all there for the same purpose. My dad humbly just walks in. He's not a speaker, just kneels down in front of everybody, and he says, "Lord, you gave us our son John to love and to raise, and now we give him back to you. Father, we want him healed, but we want him back." And then he stands up, he walks out of there weeping, and he walks out of there on fire with life now, because he knows the best is yet to come. He just stepped into this thing with some courage and he just surrendered it over. The first step forward, my friends, today and beyond, is to choose courage. To choose what you're fighting for. And so I'd like you a few times today just to consider what you are fighting for. Okay? There's a question right up there called, right now, today, what am I courageously fighting for? I'd just like you to take 10 seconds thinking on that. What are you fighting for at League? What are you fighting for in your teams? What are you fighting for in your health and your spiritual walk and your relationships? What are those fights for you? Because that's the birthplace of the good stuff. When you choose what it is you're fighting for, then it's on. Then you're all in. And then once you know, you can step toward it with some vision. Okay, so first, in order to be the difference, you got to be courageous. Then you got to be a visionary. This is where it gets exciting. Because it's not about looking down anymore. Now it's about looking up and seeing what's possible. I thought Bill talked beautifully about how it's not about just one person, right? Because you need to be picked up by the other folks in your team. And this story kind of steps into that. This huge, beautiful team, all working together with vision. The guy up there right now is my burn doctor, a little guy named Vachia Vajan. This guy was 4'9", okay? Little man with this lion's heart. The kind of leader, as all great ones are, who surround themselves with a team better than themselves. Right? He just built this team that was so powerful that really nothing could get in their way. This team of janitors and technicians and food prep folks, people who answer the phones, the therapist, the nurses. One of our nurses looked less like her and a lot more like him. Okay? Big old dude, kind of built like me. But his name wasn't Apollo. It was Nurse Roy. Okay? This guy worked just up the river in Missouri. Nurse Roy was a burn nurse in the 80s. This guy used to come into my room every morning. This is just an underpaid nurse, man. Coming in, picking me up, getting me on my feet again. Getting me to stand up. It took a physical therapist 8 months to get me to stand. It took Roy a total of 2 months. 8 months for the pros, 2 months for him. It's not even his job. But he would get me up on my feet, never actually let my feet hit the ground. Right. They never touched the ground. He hovered me just above the ground, and then he would drag me back toward that bandage change. And on the walk back there, as the blood would just race from my head and my heart down to my toes, this guy would kind of bark into my right ear. He'd say, "Boy, you are going to walk again. You might as well get used to it. Come on, I'll go with you. Here we go. You doing all right?" And he just walked me on back. And then the following morning, man, this guy comes into that bedroom. He picks me up, gets me on my feet, hovers me above the ground and says, "Boy, you are going to walk again. You might as well get used to it. Come on, I'll go with you. Let's go. You doing all right?" Just have that same conversation. I hated that guy. I mean that. Besides the physical pain that you can kind of get used to, the emotional pain of knowing the guy was full of it. I knew better. Man, I had seen my legs burnt down to the bone in some areas. I wasn't going to walk. But this guy believed I would. About halfway through this time in the hospital, one day he's walking me back, he's giving me trouble, and I buy into his dream. Right? It wasn't like my big dream. It was Roy's dream for my life. At the end of this walk, he would pick me up in those big old bare arms and submerge me into the stainless steel tub. And then it was on, man. The bandage change. I brought 2 pictures. If you want to see them, great. If you don't, go ahead and look down for just a moment. It takes these nurses 45 minutes to pull off the bandages. And then they get to do their job, right? We all have jobs. Their job is to clean the body. So they scrub and they clean. They raise us out of the water. They dry us off and remedicate, rewrap. 2 hours. Today, instead of feeling that pain for me, I invite you all instead to feel it for those nurses. After they're finished with O'Leary, they go into the next room, they pick up the next patient, and they do it again. And after doing it for her, they go into the next room and they grab him and they do it again. I would imagine that we all realize we have difficult jobs. Every individual. But I honestly can't fathom a more difficult job than this. Those nurses realized it was about something bigger than them. It was about the entire dream and vision and mission that they were fighting for. And so they fought through it together. There's a quote from a guy named Nietzsche. He writes, "When you know your why, you can endure anyhow." This is it. If right before I walked down, Bill kind of pulled me aside and said, "Johnny, we're running short, baby. Give me 30 seconds instead of an hour," I would say, "Man, no problem." Here it is, guys. When you know your why, your vision and your mission, what really makes you remarkable, when you know your why, you can endure anyhow. But you got to know the why first. You got to know the mission in your life first. Those folks realized that they were part of our miracle. That they were now forever part of our story. Whether we saw them again or not, they're part of our story. They're part of our fabric of life. And when you see that picture up there, what I'm sure a bunch of you are thinking is, my goodness, the poor guy went through so much as a little boy. And then the poor guy has to settle on a girl like that. When does this talk become motivational and good? Her name's Beth, man. She shines because of her heart. If you think she's good looking, you ought to see what's within her. She is a gorgeous lady. She's able to see right past the crap that nobody else can kind of look past. She just sees right through it. She finds what's good, and she works to make the good better. It's a beautiful way to go through life. I don't care what your job title says. Get down with whatever it is you're looking at. Find what's good, and then work to make that better. That's how she goes through life. And as beautiful as she is, getting to that moment wasn't easy. I never dated in grade school, high school, or college. And then in college, I met that good-looking lady up there, and I started pursuing her. It only took me about 18 months before I had the courage to ask her out. And I laid my heart on the table, and I said, "Baby, I am just falling head over heels for you." And she looks back at me, and she says, "John, you are like a brother to me." Now, I don't know what y'all heard about Missouri. That's Arkansas, okay? It's not Missouri. The wrong state. Cousins, not sisters, okay? Get it straight. When you get rejected like that in a state where that's illegal, this burns. Right? In particular, when it's been happening your whole life, you never dated, man. And you want to quit, you want to give up, you want to just say, it's just not going to happen. But if you got a remarkable vision, you don't just give up on it. Right? Because it's bigger than you. It's certainly bigger than some failure. So you pick yourself back up, you start marching back toward that vision. After only a year of pursuing her and embarrassing yourself by hovering over her too frequently, you ask her out again, and this time she says, "John, nothing's changed, brother." And you don't give up because the vision's more remarkable than you. It's about tomorrow. It's about what's possible. And so you chase it. And about a year later, you're at dinner with this girl, and she leans over about halfway through, and she says, "John, I think I'm falling for you. Will you date me?" What do y'all think I said back? "I like this." "No," said the man in the front row. "No. I don't date sisters." I wish I had that kind of courage, but I said, "Bring it on, man." So we dated for a while. You see what happened there. That night we celebrated this dream that so many people were a part of, this remarkable dream. But we celebrated not just with ourselves, because a dream accomplished just on your own it's lame, it's not worth achieving. We celebrated with this group of doctors and nurses, this entire team who 24 years earlier had the same remarkable vision to fight with us. And the only one unable to make it was big old Nurse Roy. It's true. He lives in Brownsville, Texas. Too far to make the 22-hour drive up to St. Louis. He's still a nurse. It would have been so cool to have the man sitting there in the church when his boy walked onto the altar grabbed his fiancée nervously. They said their vows, they kissed, they turned around, and then they walked down this big old aisle together. Everybody else years earlier was talking about death. But one person, Roy. Roy's walking into that deathbed. He's getting me out of it, and he's saying, boy, forget death. I'm going to walk again, man. That's where the story goes. And so as we kind of touch second base and start racing toward third, the next question I'd like you to think about is this one. This is the game changer. What kind of vision, my friends, are you casting for your clients, for your team, for your family? And don't miss that last piece. For yourself. It's a part of it. Is it the one that Roy had? Or is it not? It's that polar opposite. Yes or no? Hope or not? Life or death? I challenge you all today to realize your vision changes everything that happens tomorrow and beyond, into eternity. It's a big deal. Choose a powerful vision. Choose a remarkable vision. Watch what happens. And then step into that choosing significance instead of success. Okay? This is the third piece now. Be significant. When I was first burned, they had me tied down to this big old hospital bed like this with ropes on my hands and arms. My hands and legs. So I couldn't move. My body had blown up to twice the size of normal due to swelling. So my eyes were swollen shut. I can't see now, right? Blackness. My lungs have been burned. So I couldn't breathe. So they cut in a trach, they force oxygen in, which is nice. But now it means I can't eat or drink. And I can't talk. Making up for lost time. I just lay there like a little boy. I'm awake, but I can't do anything. I just lay there in pain and fear. I spent a lot of time praying and a lot of time dreaming. And all the time hearing. I hear everything. Right? When the lights are right, you finally hear. And when you grow up in St. Louis, Missouri, there's really one thing that gets you through the summertime. Right? We don't have all the beautiful things y'all have down here. About the only thing we really have is our baseball team. For the one person here who likes the Cardinals, thank you. We'll talk later. We love baseball, man. We love baseball. And in the 80s, the way you watch baseball best is just to listen to it. You listen to the voice of a guy I bet many of you had heard down here too, named Jack Buck. The voice of the Cardinals for 49 years. This man up there was my hero as a little guy. I never met him, but he's my hero. I was burned January 17th, 1987. It's a Saturday. January 18th, the following day, my door opens up from the outside. Somebody walks in with dress shoes. They sit down, they pull the chair up extra close. I hear the breathing first. And then I hear this voice. This voice that just booms into my right ear and says, "Kid, wake up. You are going to live. You got it? You're going to survive. And when you get out of here, we're going to celebrate together at Busch Stadium." Kid, are you listening? Kid, we'll call it John O'Leary Day at the ballpark. Keep fighting. And then this man stands up and he just walks out. And he leaves me like this. Absolutely fired up for life, man. We're not looking down at this rut. We're looking straight forward to what's possible. I found out many years later that after he left, he pulled the door shut, leaned his head against that glass door, and he just broke down weeping. And so the nurses race over. This guy's a celebrity. They get down, they look up, and they say, "Mr. Buck, are you okay?" And this announcer looks back down and says, "I'm not sure." The little boy in 406, he's not going to make it, is he? And this young nurse down just like this looks up at Jack and she says, "Mr. Buck, there's not a chance. The burns are so bad, 87% third degree, no donor sites. The kid's already got an infection. There's not a chance." When y'all get news like that, what do you do? whether it's on a job site or it's in a relationship or it's with a doctor. Because it's not if it comes, it's just a matter of when it comes. What Jack did is he took the elevator down, he took it home, he wept about it, he prayed about it. Please don't miss that. And then he asked a question of himself. I'm going to have you all yell this back out to me in a minute, so try to remember it. It's simple, though. The question is, what more can I do? Okay. What more can I do? It could have been, where were his parents? Where were they? Or, what was that stupid kid doing in the garage with fire and gasoline anyway? No man would ask that question, though, because you all know exactly what I was doing in the garage with the fire and the gasoline, because you were there too. Instead of being other-focused, the question was all about himself. You want to be remarkable? Quit looking around for somebody else to step up yourself. Ask the question here, what more can I do? The following day, it's a Monday morning, we get a snowstorm. The door opens up from the outside, somebody walks in, they sit down, they pull the chair up close, I hear the breathing, and then I hear the voice, and the voice booms in, "Kid, I'm back. You are going to live." Got it? You are going to survive. Keep fighting. John O'Leary Day at the ballpark is going to be so worth it. My friends, those visits went on for the next 5 months. Every single day, some very busy person was in that hospital room, on that phone or over the radio, talking about his little boy, John O'Leary, this kid. Encouragement makes a difference, leaders. Right? You all get that? It matters on the workplace, it matters in the field, it matters at home. Encouragement matters. This guy's just loving on me through it all. At the end of that time, we had John O'Leary Day at the ballpark. He learns that night that I can't walk, I'm stuck in this wheelchair. As we're broadcasting the game together, he sits here, I sit right over there in the wheelchair, and he keeps asking questions like, he said things like, we have a tape of this, he says, "We have the pleasure of having John O'Leary at the ballpark with us tonight. John, are you having fun?" I don't even talk. I'm so freaking nervous, I can't even talk back to my ear. We got all this dead space on the radio. So he learns I can't use my hands, I can't stand up, and I'm a mute. He learns I can't do anything. But I'm smiling ear to ear, and this guy realizes that I can't hold anything in my hands. Not a nacho, not a hot dog, nothing. And rather than just looking down and feeling sorry for him, he takes this thing home, he prays on it, and then he asks a question of himself. What's the question? We're going to say it one more time as one big, lead, remarkable team. Ready? 1, 2, 3. What more can I do? Can you imagine, honestly, if you ask yourself that question every day, in every interaction, every time before you started a job or finished, or ended a relationship or started one, what more can I do? The following day, after asking himself that question in prayer, he sends me this baseball. Signed by Ozzie. Some of you may remember the Wizard. Below that ball comes a note. The note's from Jack. It reads, "Kid, if you want a second baseball, all you have to do is send a thank you note to the guy who signed the first one." Now you all know that this guy knew I couldn't write, yes? So what's he doing here? Encouraging, baby. Challenging. My mom and dad have been trying the same thing. They kept stepping into my room every day saying, "Baby, when you learn how to write, you could go back to school." It'd be like some of you leaders coming in saying, "Hey, Rich, when you finish this job, hurry up, you can stay late and you can finish the next one too." Right? That doesn't fire you up. That's not remarkable. That stinks. And then along comes this old man who sends me this little baseball, and he says, "Kid, you want a second one? Good. Write a thank you note." That inspires. You found your why now. So you write this note, first time since being burned, mail it off. A couple days later, you get a second ball with a second note. The note reads, "Kid, if you want a third baseball, all you have to do is write a thank you note to the guy who signed the second one." And like now it's on, right? I did it once. Once you do something once, it's easy to do it a second time. So I wrote a second note out to another Cardinal, mailed it off. A couple days later, I got a third ball with a third note. This note says, "Kid, you want a fourth baseball. All you have to do is write a thank you letter." When I spoke to those utility workers I was telling you about, it only took those guys, I think, 17 balls before they saw the pattern. Some of you right now are saying, "What pattern?" Right? That's okay. We'll get there. That summer, this guy sent over 60 baseballs. 60. Teaching some little boy with goofy hair, in a wheelchair, without fingers, not just how to write again, that's easy, but how to thrive forward in life regardless of all the stuff that's going on around him. It's because of him. He's the remarkable one in the story. We remained friends the rest of his life. And when I graduate, he's there with a package and a note. What do y'all think the note began with? Good. Then it goes a different direction, but good. This means a lot to me. I hope it means a lot to you too. Enjoy. It's yours. So I open up this package and look inside, and there's tissue paper. So I yank out all that stuff and then walk over to the light, because I can't see, it's a dark room, kind of like this. And then I hold it up high. And then very slowly it starts to make sense what this band just gave away. This is the baseball that you receive when you go into the Hall of Fame. If you're the best at what you do in Major League Baseball, you get one of these in your lifetime. And when some ungrateful and I think woefully undeserving kid graduates college, this guy just gives it away. It's all yours. He didn't give it away to a speaker. The cameras weren't in the room following him around. You know how you see some of the athletes doing that? This was done quietly behind closed doors where nobody could ever find out because he could. Keep it between me and you. In Scripture, when miracles take place, very often the miracle healer, the author of life, usually says, "It's just between me and you. Right? Don't tell anybody else." And then what happens? Boom. I got to tell everybody. It's kind of what happened here, man. Once we felt that kind of love, we just had to tell some folks about it. So as we touch third base, and we're going to race toward home real quick right now, I got two questions for you. Okay. The first one is, who's your Jack? Who's that person on your team or waiting for you back home, or maybe they're already waiting for you up in heaven, who just reached out to you when you badly needed a little bit of love or push up? Who's your Jack? And then the second piece of this question, I think the bigger piece, is today, who considers you their Jack? Who in this room right now is thinking in their own heart, "My gosh, without her, I'm not even here. Without him, no way am I the kind of dad I am." Who's thinking that thought of you? The cool piece here is, even if you got nobody right now, you can step into this thing this afternoon and choose somebody and coach them up to where you are, and then push them past where you are. That's the beauty of choosing significance. We talked, my friends, so far about three big pieces, and there's a fourth that ties it all together. Okay. Starts with courage, that's the foundation. You move forward with some vision, then you choose significance, and then you tie all this baby together by being intentional. Right? No more accidents. You choose to be intentional. 5 years ago, my mom and dad wrote a book about what happened to us. They printed 100 copies. That they have since sold 30,000. And one of the copies they sold was to their son, John. That my jerk parents made me buy my own book. This is true. $10 got me that book. And that night, 5 years ago, I got to read this story that I'd always looked back on with such anger and animosity and self-pity, kind of, to an extent. And as I'm paging through, I'm realizing that God was at work in it all, and that this story is beautiful. It's blessed, man. It's blessed. I wouldn't change any of it. And I share that with you for a couple of reasons. One, it wasn't like we dreamed of being a speaker, man. We were pulled into this, I think, by a much higher power. And that's one piece. The second piece is in that book, Mom and Dad referred to what happened to me as John's accident. Right? John's accident. What do y'all think happens when you hold a flame to a can of gasoline and you just start pouring? Anybody want to guess? What do you think? Blows up. Is that an accident? I think sometimes, y'all, we kind of point at things and we say, darn the luck, man. An accident. In relationships and with our safety records and in life, an accident. Well, for me, you can follow behind me if you want, but I'm looking in the mirror. No more accidents for me. I'm going to try to choose the path going forward. And when things do blow up, try to choose what happens after that. But no more accidents. Life isn't an accident. It is a choice. Which way you go forward. That falls upon you to choose that. My brother Jim, when he saw me burning, he made this radical choice to change from who he was into who God had called him to be. This beautiful choice to serve. As he picks up that rug and races back over to me, he beats down the flames the first time. And when they're leaping 3 feet off of me, that means they leap onto him. You guys all ever touch like a stove? Oh, you pull back? Well, when you're on fire because you just swung down and you pull back, and then you swing back down a second time, and a third time, and for 2 minutes you keep beating down the flames, it's no accident when you keep beating down. When you keep fighting that flame, when you keep getting burned yourself. It's because you've chosen a different path. You've chosen a bigger path. The therapist, the people who serve us so beautifully, man. They stretch our joints. Anybody ever had physical therapy? Got a couple. Was it fun? No, man. It hurts. But the only way you grow in life is to stretch. It's the only way you're going to grow as a business, as dads and moms, as spouses, as Christians, as whatever faith you come from. The only way you grow in life is to stretch into it boldly. Endure the pain short term and then grow beautifully long term. You got to stretch. Those therapists stretch me beautifully. Those nurses, led by this dude, man, stretch. I'm telling you. And they cast it upon me, this vision, bigger than the one I had for myself. This vision of not just surviving, but thriving into life. Real recovery. When you see that picture up there, what strikes you about that little boy's face? You see that? That big old grin, man, what's this guy smiling about? He's sitting there because he can't stand. And he's at home because he can't go to school. He's lost his fingers. He's lost his hair now. He's got big old bright red scars and wounds from his neck to his toes. He's in pain, I'm telling you. And he's smiling. And it's not like the cheese. Take the picture, Mom. I am smiling. I remember those. This is like sincerity. It's joy. It's peace. It's faith. It's the realization that there is so much left for you to do in your life. And when you have that, if you have that, how could you not smile? Really? I don't know how you could not smile. This kid just fired up and he's alive. And the best is yet to come. He knows it. So he smiles and he fights and he dreams and he's got a team that pushes him forward through grade school and into high school and all the way to college. 9 years when you graduate, marry, you make by far the best sell of your life and that you enjoy the best return in your life. This little one who we named after somebody who stepped into our life and into our darkness and just kept stepping in again and again and again. What's that little boy's name up there? Jack. Big old Jack. Jack never saw little Jack born. But every time we see this little man in our halls ripping down the hallway, we see that man too. We see this significant, beautiful, perfect example that God is alive and well in the goodness of others. Right? Because of his remarkable life, Jack is here with us. And then Jack welcomed aboard a little brother named Patrick. When I'm out of town traveling, I've been gone all week long. When I'm out of town traveling, my wife doesn't like it. I bet like many of you. So to get even with me, what she does is she'll take my 2 handsome boys, and then she'll dress them. pretty girls. They're still boys, and when I get home, like I get home today about 6 o'clock, I rip off those dresses, and I remind them I love them first. I rip them down to the floor, and I remind them I love them. And I remind them they darn well better be nice to their little brother, Henry. We're like cockroaches, okay? You look at that photo. 25 years ago, the hot wife wasn't at my side. And those 3 little girls weren't around to beat her. It was this naked, skinless body on a 9-year-old. Death was racing toward us, fast. And then Dad stepped in with love. Man, he just started changing me through his love. And then Mom stepped in with some love over here. We took one another's hands. We shut our eyes. We turned this thing way over to something way more bigger than any of us. And we stepped into it with some faith and some courage. We had people with vision who surrounded us. We had some significant folks step forward. And then we all chose intentionally to step forward together. All right, step forward. Come on, let's go. And then that vision, as crazy as that picture might look, it started to show up in our mind's eye. This vision of hope and love and life and beauty, in spite of what looks so obvious today. I would just offer you all that. Sometimes when things look like they're going so bad, you got to shut your eyes, turn over to something bigger than yourself, and imagine again what's possible in your life for others. I would venture to guess that the reason why so many businesses that you are competing against over the last 3 years are out of business now is because they failed to do it. That they looked at what everybody else saw, they read the papers like everybody else, and they realized, my God, the earth is burning. We better bail. And then Lee steps in with this incredible, remarkable team with some faith. And you have, I think, the best year you've ever had. Is that true? This remarkable success because of who you all are and what you're all about. So in closing, I just want to thank you all for your work and for your life, and to remind you, if you choose it, the best is yet to come. You haven't even yet begun to see what's possible in your life for others and for yourself. So thank you all, and before I leave, I want to let you know, we're going to be passing out these little wristbands during break. I wear mine every day because I have a couple commitments I keep. Commitments to my family, commitments to my God, commitments to myself and those I serve. And this band, every time I feel a snag on something, every time I feel a catch against my arm, I'm reminded of the things that matter to me. And so we're going to pass them all out to you. There's a line that says, I commit. What is it that you commit to today? What's that one thing that you can step into and change the lives of others through your own? So do consider that. If you go onto the website, you email me what you committed to, baby, and I'll support you toward it. I will race toward that commitment with you. I'd love to hear from you all. So thank you all for what you do. God bless you guys. Bill, Richard, thank you guys.